Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Today is World Refill Day, and it's a really great day to be able to hold our meeting, because we usually hold our meetings on the third Wednesday of the month, and that just so happens to be World Refill Day today. So it's really exciting, and there's been lots of chat and social media posts, and lots of businesses kind of shouting about what's going on, and it's a really great opportunity to have this session. So thanks a lot for joining. And yeah, I was really keen to get someone really nice and great to be able to talk to us today to kind of help celebrate. So I'm really glad to have Dan. So Dan's from Everyday Plastic, and so he will tell you a bit more all about it. Yeah, Dan's worked in marketing for 10 years. He's had an interest in conservation for quite a while now, and he's delivered all sorts of talks to schools, businesses and events, and works with lots of other environmental charities such as Greenpeace, Friends of the Earth, Service Against Sewage. So it's really great, and really exciting to have this to be able to kind of come along and hear about this exciting project, which has got really great coverage in national media, and we can find out a little bit more about what's going on as well. So just before I hand over to Dan, I'm just going to let you know that there is a competition where you can win a water bottle, a book. Dan will demonstrate. You can win the Everyday Plastic book, the water bottle, branded a nice lovely tote bag, and then the poster which you can see behind Dan as well. So we'll put the link in the YouTube video so that you can to do that. But anyone who enters the competition will be put in, or anyone who can donate to Everyday Plastic, anything, whether it's small or large, any kind of donation, if you can donate to them, they will then add you into the competition to win all of those fantastic goodies. And it's a great opportunity, especially on World Refill Day, to be able to have these really great prizes on offer. So thanks a lot for offering that, Dan, and really exciting to have you here. So thanks a lot for joining us. And I know it's a hot evening, but it's we're so happy you were able to come along and come and talk to us. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks everyone for being here. Really appreciate you taking your evening out to be outside, to be inside. Sorry, it's very hot, I know, so I will get cracking, and hopefully we can enjoy a bit of the sunshine after the talk. So, as again, thank you for having me. My name's Dan. I'm the founder of Everyday Plastic, and I'm pretty sure that, given your group name, Plastic Free Chesterfield, and most of you know that there is a problem with single-use plastic. You'll have seen those beaches covered in plastic waste, footage of the whale with bags in its stomach, rubbish trucks just dumping tons and tons of waste at landfill sites. And I bet that most of you care about the plastic problem and what its impact is on our environment, our surroundings, on the wildlife, and obviously on us ourselves, humans. And I'm sure many of you here are actively reducing your plastic waste at home or at work, or wherever you are in your community groups. But do you know exactly what you throw away and where it goes? Well, neither did I until I moved to a small seaside town in the southeast called Margate. Now, I've never lived by the sea before, so I made the most of walking and running along the coast as you would. But I was really quite shocked at the amount of plastic that I was seeing washed up on the beaches, especially after storms or after, perhaps after people, it's a holiday town here. So, you all have seen those pictures of beaches covered in plastic waste after people have been on holiday. And I'd seen those pictures before, of turtles in the Pacific Ocean with plastic straws up their nose and little albatross chicks feeding on bits of plastic. And I thought plastic pollution was something that happened in other parts of the world, not necessarily here, right where I live at home. So with these images pretty fresh in my mind, I started to become much more aware of just how much how many products were actually wrapped in single-use plastic in my local supermarket. As I don't need to tell you, fruit and veg, pasta and rice, pizza, hummus, toothpaste, toothbrushes, washing up liquid toilet paper, you name it. Plastic packaging was really hard to avoid. So I'm bringing all this, my shopping home, I'm unpacking the bags, I'm making my dinner, cleaning the flat, and having a shower, all this part of my washing routine. My mind's still very much on this plastic. I'm starting to wonder where all this waste packaging is going to end up. So I thought, I'll just, at least I can recycle it. Which reminds me that I need to call the local council because they haven't delivered my recycling box yet. So I picked up the phone, asked where it was, and they said, sorry, recycling isn't available to you where you live. So recycling isn't available to me where I live. Well, what am I going to do with all this stuff? So if I don't have recycling, does recycling even work? How much plastic am I throwing away? Is it all food and drink packaging from the supermarket? And what actually happens to all of my plastic waste? So I was really conscious and nervous even about my personal impact on the waste problem. Are the choices that I'm making actually polluting the environment? And am I the problem? Me, as one person. So naturally, I decided to conduct a little experiment, and I didn't throw away a single piece of plastic waste that I used for an entire year. So 12 months, 365 days. Whether I was at home, at work, in the pub, in the cinema. God, do you remember pubs and cinemas? On holiday, I would just make sure that none of the plastic waste that I produced would be thrown away. Not a bottle top, a piece of bubble wrap, plastic fork, salad bag, clothing label, coffee lid, you name it. I would make sure that everything was kept. I'm just going to share my screen with you. So as it got towards the end of the year and the bin bags started piling up in my spare room, I knew I had a story to tell. Now, as much as I'd read and learned more about the plastic problem, I couldn't forget all those initial questions I had. I needed to calculate my personal plastic footprint and get an in-depth insight into my consumption habits. And obviously, as Greg said, I have had a career in marketing. I had no idea how to do that. Got all the brainwaves, but no sort of idea of how to execute it. But luckily, I met a researcher who did. So Earth scientist Dr. Julie Schneider knew exactly what we needed to do. So over the course of 4 days, and with the help of 20 volunteers, we separated, counted, categorised, and weighed every single piece of my plastic waste. And we filled the floor of a 2,000 capacity music venue. So at the same time, I worked with a photographer friend of mine to make a massive mural featuring every bit of plastic waste that I used over that year. And when I say massive, I actually mean it was pretty massive. So as you can see, there's me in the bottom left-hand corner, just for scale. This huge billboard shows every piece of my plastic waste, whether it was a milk bottle top, crisp packet, or giant inflatable watermelon. They all appeared at actual size. And remember that this is just one person's plastic waste. You're probably thinking, oh, it's beautiful, and it's abstract, and it's colourful, and it all looks very familiar. But actually, that's not down to any artistic skill. Remember, I work in marketing. That's the packaging doing its job. That orange Jaffa cake wrapper, the Lucozade bottle shape, the green tray for mushrooms, they're all specifically designed to persuade you to buy them. And what I loved about this piece is that without pointing any fingers or preaching to anyone, it held a mirror up to those who saw it. It helped people to recognise the plastic problem as something everyone is responsible for. And I called the piece Everyday Plastic, which is, I thought, let's Ron seal it. Let's do what it says on the tin. But behind the scenes, Dr. Julie and I were working on crunching those numbers that we'd gathered during those 4 days of analysing my plastic waste. So while it took a year to save all my plastic and almost another year to write and research our report, which is called What We Throw Away and Where It Goes, We published this at the end of 2018, actually on the day of the UK budget, which kind of coincidentally announced some pretty poor anti-plastic policies that day. So it was quite good timing. And the whole process up until then was a real crash course in gaining an in-depth insight into understanding my consumption habits, not just through what it actually looked like, but by having a detailed breakdown by the numbers too. And the stats were genuinely shocking. So for example, I can tell you that over the course of 1 year, I threw away 4,490 pieces of plastic. Now, I think I probably know what you're going to say, but do you think you throw away more or less? If you throw away more, stick your thumbs in the air. If you throw away fewer items than 4,490, stick your thumb in the air. Yeah, okay. So that's interesting, because as part of this experiment, I wanted to understand if what I was throwing away was normal. Did I represent the average UK citizen in terms of consumption? Well, it turns out that those 4,490 pieces by weight come in under what the average UK citizen throws away. So as it's a pretty honest representation of what is getting thrown away by one person in the UK, could we calculate how much we're throwing away as a country? Well, if we were to apply my own waste, those 4,490 pieces, to the population of the UK, which is around 66 million people, then we could safely estimate that as a country, we are throwing away over 295 billion pieces of plastic every year, which is hard to picture, isn't it? So by volume, it represents an enormous pile of plastic that would rise as high as the Shard in London, the UK's tallest building. And the base would cover over 20 Wembley stadiums. It has a diameter of over a kilometre. And remember, this is just one country in 1 year. Imagine what we're throwing away globally over 10, 20 or 50 years. And most of it is single-use packaging. 93%, in fact, is single-use packaging. Now, this is the material that's used to wrap or package goods that are designed to be used once and then thrown away. So over 4,000 of the pieces that I threw away were specifically designed to be used once and then thrown away. How crazy is that? What choices do we have when we go to the supermarket or something? Now, it won't surprise you that over 2/3 of the plastic waste was food and drink packaging, and hygiene, cleaning and medicine packaging waste made up a further 10%. So again, we could safely assume that over 3/4 of the stuff that I threw away in that year could have been bought from a supermarket. So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that most of you here like eating crisps. Thumbs up if you dabble in the odd snack. Can't get enough of them. I'm sure you're looking at this and thinking, wow, you eat a lot of crisps, and maybe that you've got good taste in those savoury snacks. Now, I got through 149 of these delicious packets of crisps in 1 year, which sounds like a lot, but actually, again, on average, a UK person gets through 160 packets a year. So there's a chance that most of you guys like crisps even more than me. Now, all these crisp packets are made of multi-layered materials. That foil you see when you open the packet is sandwiched between two very thin layers of plastic film. And not only is this hard for a recycling company to separate the materials to recycle, it just wouldn't be cost effective. The soft, flimsy plastic material that you'd separate is just of too poor quality and too low grade, even just too little value. So if I'm eating 149 packets a year, and let's say you're all eating 160 packets a year or more, then we're throwing away over billions of crisp packets every year, and they can't get recycled. And it's the same for chocolate, sweets, ice cream, biscuit wrappers or chewing gum. Imagine how many we go through at Easter or Christmas or Halloween. Again, we're throwing away billions every single year. And it's not just our snacks and treats. It's even the stuff that's good for you, like salad or fruit and veg. This all comes packed in soft plastic that can't be recycled. As you can see here, in fact, most of the stuff we use comes wrapped in this non-recyclable plastic film. It's cheap to produce, lightweight, but the material is of such little value to anyone once it's been used and then thrown away. So, do you remember me saying that my council told me that recycling wasn't available to me? Well, it felt important for us to estimate the amount of plastic that is theoretically recyclable, i.e. what items or pieces do local councils in the UK list that they collect for recycling? So you know that little graphic on the back of packaging that reads not currently recycled, probably that really frustrating thing that's pretty much on everything. Well, you know, we've got the data here to back that up. We determined that 70% of the plastic waste that I threw away in a year was not currently recycled. So only 30%, less than a third, is currently recyclable in the UK. And remember that that is a best case scenario. So the picture ain't looking too pretty, is it? And I haven't even got to that, original question I had. What actually happens to all my waste? Well, Dr. Julie did a lot of cross-checking and double-checking and fact-checking, triple-checking against a large amount of publicly available research that we used to analyse my data. And she was able to accurately calculate what would happen to a year's worth of my plastic waste. So of the 4,490 pieces of plastic that I threw away in a year, only 161 items, that's 4%, would end up getting recycled here in the UK. That's 4%. So more of it, actually, more of the stuff that goes into your recycling box is shipped abroad. How does that make you feel? It made me feel so sort of upset and angry that we're not taking responsibility for our own waste, that we're shipping it off to, poorer countries in many cases to just sit in yards. Most of the stuff that we're throwing away is getting incinerated, which is a solution that's being employed more and more as countries around the world struggle to deal with the unmanageable amount of plastic that is being produced. And remember, the raw ingredient in plastic is a fossil fuel, it's oil or gas. So burning it releases carbon into the atmosphere, which is in turn accelerating the global heating. So I certainly achieved my initial objective of learning more about my personal impact on the plastic problem. So by collecting almost 4,500 pieces of plastic in a single year, I'm perhaps the only person to have ever confronted the reality of the global plastic problem through my own individual habits and behaviours. So much so that it actually did change my life. And if this experiment could prompt these changes in me as just one person, what could it do for other people? So by offering the public the same experience I had, could we all find a personal connection to the plastic problem and discover our own plastic footprint? So we launched the Everyday Plastic Survey. Now, we'd worked so hard on researching our process, establishing a methodology to analyse our plastic waste and actually how to calculate our personal plastic footprint into a sort of digestible and an accessible manner. We wanted to offer that opportunity to everyone. And I knew that having the same experience I had could help inform and galvanise thousands of new campaigners and activists. Now, the brief for the Everyday Plastic Survey is very simple. Collect your plastic for a week, not a year, that would be crazy. Analyse and record what you use before submitting your data to reveal your unique and personal plastic footprint. Now, we've been trialling this survey with schools, businesses, communities, events over the past almost 20 months now. And we've surveyed almost 400 households and sort of calculated where almost 50,000 pieces of plastic would end up. But what I'm going to talk to you today is, as an example, is what we did over Zoom during lockdown. We gave people the opportunity to join in this project. And not only was this a great way to give kids that were being homeschooled or furloughed adults something to do, we could assess the impact lockdown was having on the amount of plastic waste by comparing results to our pre-lockdown trials. So we asked everyone to collect their plastic for a whole week before analysing it together as a group online. And it was great to see people emptying their waste in their living rooms and gasp at the amount of plastic waste that they would just create in a single week. And after they submitted their data, we crunched the numbers to generate their personal plastic footprint. So there's some people sort of going through it. And the footprint looks a little bit like this. So this footprint shows how much of your plastic is food packaging, single-use packaging, or how much is recycled or incinerated, and what your consumption would look like if we scaled it up. But most importantly for us, we wanted to show you where you can make small changes that end up making a massive impact. And on an individual level, this helps people to understand and connect with the plastic problem through their own consumption, provides them with real data and personalised tips to reduce their plastic waste. But it's not until we start looking at the group data, the collective data, that a picture starts to emerge. So the lockdown group consisted of 483 people across 179 households. And when we come to applying the data, I've taken averages and totals for the whole group. So the average amount that was thrown away in a single week per household was 128 pieces. Between them, they collected and recorded and analysed nearly 23,000 pieces of plastic. Now, if they all threw away the same amount per week for the whole year, as a group, just as these 179 households, they would throw away over 1.2 million pieces of plastic in a year, just between these 179 households. Now, if we take that average figure, that 128 pieces on the left, and apply that to the rest of the country, the number of households in this country, which is 27.8 million, we could then estimate that the UK throws away almost 3.6 billion pieces of plastic in a single week. That's over 500 million a day. Now, these four categories here make up 26% of what was thrown away. And just going back to the one on the left, that 68% was used to package, wrap, or consume food and drink. Remember, mine was 67%. So I'm not an anomaly. You know, most of the stuff that we're throwing away is related to food and drink. So only 4 types of these products on the right, are attributed to over a quarter of what was thrown away. They make up 26% of what was thrown away. In fact, 13% of the plastic waste that we've analysed can be attributed to a snack. So that's a pack of crisps or a chocolate bar, which means around 1 in 9 pieces that was thrown away during this week was a snack. Now, 2/3 of the plastic waste was soft plastic, and I mentioned the issue with soft plastic a little bit earlier, and this data further compounds that issue. 36% is considered recyclable. Now remember that that's the items that are collected for recycling by local councils, essentially a best case scenario. And as you can see on the right, only 5% of those 23,000 pieces would end up getting recycled. Now, we've gone through a lot of data, and we've managed to sort of calculate sort of the most common items where we could help to make a change, or where people could sort of invest time, a bit of effort, and in some cases no money or no effort into reducing their weekly total. So these are the 8 items. So I'll just run through them quickly. What we recommend is that all of our participants completely give up drinking water out of plastic bottles. Obviously, it's World Refill Day, so it's no better time to really encourage people to do that. Swap shower gel for soap. Often you can buy soap for pretty good value. Obviously, I'm going to say Dove, which sells for 50p. Obviously, there's very questionable processes that go into making it, but if you're looking to only tackle one thing, then Dove provide a cheaper soap. But there are also soaps that cost £1.50 and upwards. So there's a great way to swap there to reduce your plastic. Carrier bags, and again, is quite a simple one. Make sure that you always take a bag with you wherever you go, into the supermarket or when you go shopping. Milk bottles, what we suggest is ordering 3 out of every 4 of your milk bottles in glass. So that then gives you the sort of leeway, in case you run out of milk at the weekend or in the week, to go and buy a bigger or to go and buy one out of plastic. Or you could buy bigger bottles of milk and decant them into smaller bottles and then freeze it. Again, that's reducing the number of pieces that you're throwing away. Wet wipes, again, I don't think we need to use any in the kitchen or in the bathroom. So using a reusable cloth for all in the kitchen and bathroom, and then if you're using them for cleansing or makeup or baby wipes, start to sort of research options to, again, sort of cut out the amount of wet wipes. Fruit and veg and meat and fish were the biggest contributors to waste packaging that we'd seen in this survey. So, that means that it can be quite difficult to avoid in certain cases. So what we suggest is buying 1 out of every 4 pieces of your fruit and veg loose. When you go to the supermarket now, Tesco, wherever you go, has a lot of options to buy loose. So it's always trying to buy as much as you can loose and save costs where you can. Same with meat and fish. Just quickly back to fruit and veg. If you've got a local greengrocers, you can also look to go there, or look for a local veg box that sort of offers plastic free or reduced packaging produce. Meat and fish, again, you can try and buy 1 out of every 4 pieces here, unpackaged. So taking your reusable container to the counter in the supermarket or the butcher or the fishmonger and just asking them to use that. And then obviously I've been pretty lenient on this snack. So just 1 out of every 10 we need to reduce. But snacks, remember, have the biggest impact. So starting to look at ways to reduce your snack intake, or even just your packaged snack intake, making your own brownies, for example, at home, or flapjacks, or when you go to the cafe, trying to make sure that you ask for it without packaging. So just going back to the group, if this group, the lockdown group, applied these 8 tips to their plastic waste, between them, they could have reduced the weekly total by just over 1,700 items. Now, that may not sound like a lot in the grand scheme of it, but actually, on average, that works out that each participating household could have saved over 10 pieces of plastic from being thrown away in a single week. Again, let's apply that average to every household in the country. Just by adopting these 8 realistic and achievable tips, we could prevent 268 million pieces of plastic waste from being thrown in a single week, which is just over 30 million per day. Now, in a year, that adds up to 14 billion. So even if just 25% of the households in the country strictly implemented these tips, by our calculations, using the data we've collected from the survey, we could prevent 3.4 billion pieces from being thrown away. Now, I mentioned earlier that we were able to compare the results to our pre-lockdown surveys. So we said that 128 pieces of plastic were collected on average by households during lockdown. Pre-lockdown, with that average, was 99 pieces. So that's between a 25 and 30% increase. Now, realistically, we could put this down to the fact that more people are at home, but that shouldn't mask the real issue. There is too much single-use plastic in circulation. And with production expected to dramatically increase over the coming years, we're going to see more and more of it in our bins unless something is done. Now, this was picked up widely across the national trade and consumer press, and the government also responded to our findings in a DEFRA blog post, the Department for Environment, Farming and Rural Affairs. And that just shows you that even on this small scale, this can have an impact at every level. So imagine that I've shared quite a lot with you, and I appreciate that it's some of it's pretty shocking, and particularly some of the data I've presented you with. But believe me, it really is easy to feel overwhelmed and overburdened, and wondering how we're going to get out of this mess. But it really is important to be optimistic. Now, I want to show you that through this project, through that survey project, that we can fast track awareness and understanding. We can change how we consume and what we expect from our brands and our politicians. And most importantly, I want to show you that individual actions, when taken together, can make a massive difference. So thanks very much for listening. Definitely, we've left plenty of time for questions and discussion, which I always find the best part of it. So let me know if any of you have any questions or just have a point to make, any advice for anyone. Be really interested to hear.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Dan. That's really great. And it's a really amazing just that you've managed to engaged so many people on this, and it's really great, and it's to get all the press attention. It's great because I think just kind of stop, the more kind of we can get out about this, the more people can start kind of questioning their own plastic use and that kind of thing. And I think it's sort of one of those things where, like, because Blue Planet 2 was like a while ago now, kind of you kind of sort of think you need to kind of keep up the momentum, really, don't you? Because obviously we had like the David Attenborough effect of like when when Blue Planet came out, loads of people were shouting about it, but sort of the kind of the shouting has sort of gone down a bit, and people sort of you sort of, that's why it's so important just to kind of keep up the message.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point, because we've just got to keep going with it, and it's the same for all issues really across the board. There's a lot to write and to fix in this society for our for us and for our environment. And this is, I see sort of plastic, understanding the plastic problem as a sort of entry point to sort of get to grips with other environmental issues. Once you start looking beneath the surface of the global plastic problem, you start to uncover some real murky stuff. And it's linked to obviously the fossil fuel industry and the chemical industry, but also how it affects our society and capitalism and consumption as a whole. It really has completely accelerated consumerism as a I guess a system. So it's really trying to encourage people to pause and take a moment before quickly tapping buy now on Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. And Catherine said consumers always have to take the responsibility for plastic use. Should be more pressure on manufacturers and supermarkets.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've got to, how I personally think about it is, the more noise we can make, the more pressure it puts on manufacturers and supermarkets. We're not asking for you guys to just completely stop using plastic, because let's face it, firstly, it's the default packaging material. Secondly, it's cheap, so it means products are cheaper, and our system is designed to be fast-paced and quick. So I think the more we can shout about it, the more we can take part in projects, meet up in groups like this, hear people talk about it, just sharing what you know or done. If you choose to buy potatoes without packaging on, if that's a conscious decision, then you're making a difference. And I think we should look at it in the same way as we're encouraged to vote. A single vote you wouldn't think would make a difference, but actually it really does when they're all taken together. So it's important to try and be pragmatic about it, but also as urgent as possible.
Yeah, we always say kind of like when you kind of trying to reduce your single-use plastic, start in one room, and I think like the bathroom is like one of the easiest ways to start, because you've got quite a bit in there. You've got the soap, the shampoo, the conditioner, whatever, so it's kind of an easy one really. And also as well, like there's seems to be an increase now in zero waste shops, and so it's sort of it's becoming easier to sort of look at tackling those kind of things. And there is there are like a lot of plastic free options and stuff out there. It just kind of takes time to kind of research it and find out what's out there, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you don't have to, zero waste in some cases can prove expensive if you're swapping for alternatives, but if you're just, I know Catherine's just put almost impossible to buy fruit and veg not in plastic. There are definitely some pieces of produce that you can buy that aren't wrapped in plastic. So it's always about just trying to focus on those, and if everyone's making those choices, then that again, supermarkets start to see that that's what people want to do. I mean, again, I'm trying to be optimistic, and I totally understand that there's a big big hill to climb, but
yeah, and I think I think that's the point you made about sort of like expensive kind of thing. It's always a real challenge because it's sort of, you know, especially people who are kind of trying to be on a budget, for example, to kind of cut down. It's really challenging, you know, because one thing you could say is to kind of cut down on your fruit and veg. You could look at buying a fruit and veg box, for example, but then that might end up being more expensive than if you just buy, you know, a 75p bag of apples or something, or, you know, it's what's the cheaper option,
yeah,
you know, to go you know, to go and buy a veg box, a fruit and veg box with loose fruit and veg in, which can be quite expensive, like on a monthly subscription, you know, on a subscription basis, or just go to the supermarket and buy a cheap packet of apples or whatever, or bananas or something.
yeah,
And that's a challenge.
Again, yeah, I think it is a challenge, and it's starting. Take it slow. Start simple. You're not gonna you're not gonna be plastic free in a day. And also, I think being plastic free is can be a tricky word. I think less plastic or reduced plastic is what we should aim for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people kind of always ask that, like, I don't know, you know, obviously Serbs against so we set up plastic free communities, and it's a real challenge talking to people to say, actually, we're not, you know, we're not completely plastic free, you know, we're trying to reduce our single-use plastic, but, you know, you can't be single-use plastic free Chesterfield, or, you know, something like that, you know. So it's
just going to answer a question from Sarah. Supermarkets starting to provide recycling facilities for crisp packets. Do you know what happens to these? Good question. What I think tends to happen, it's got a name which I can't remember, is that so they also collect bread bags and, you know, other soft plastic, which they say they recycle. What happens is when they bring the deliveries in, and they unwrap all the from the cellophane, from the pallets, they tend to take these bread bags back with them. To be honest, I don't see how they can be recycling these, because firstly, it would be an expensive process to do for a little value, and there aren't enough facilities in the country to offer that to everyone. So if you're saying that you have this wherever you are in Chesterfield, I've also seen it at our local Tesco and Sainsbury's. So what's actually happening to them is a really good question. My feeling, probably they're getting incinerated. It looks good, but there are ways of monitoring what happens to them. Just to let you know also that some items that are exported are count under our recycling figures. So when you see recycling figures that say we've recycled 50%, which in itself is terrible, but it's inflated because everything that they've shipped abroad, it can count as recycling, which is ridiculous.
There's the Greenpeace campaign at the minute, isn't there, about ending plastic exports, and I think it was interesting at how, as soon as Greenpeace launched their campaign, apparently Turkey said that they were going to stop taking any of our plastic waste, and so it's you know, that's really great. And the more countries, you know, that say no to us, then, you know, the more we've got to kind of start thinking about this, really, because, you know, we've not got the space to dump all that kind of plastic anywhere. So
see that if exporting was completely banned, you know, how quickly we'd start to tackle this issue. But yeah, I just want to follow on from that question from Anna, who said, we eat a lot of crisps, welcome to the club, and send our empty packets to TerraCycle for recycling. So what are your thoughts on TerraCycle? Is that a good solution to this type of plastic? So TerraCycle isn't a bad solution. What it does is take these crisp packets that, you know, would probably end up in landfill or incineration, and it then it turns it into sort of lower value products like a drain pipe or supermarket furniture, or, you know, things like that. So it's essentially one cycling, if that could be a phrase. You know, there's only one cycle in it. So all those crisp packets are still having to be made from virgin plastic. So essentially, they're not being turned back into crisp packets. So it's kind of good because it keeps them out of the environment. It keeps them from being incinerated, which is obviously good. But also at the same time, it just means that the flow of plastic, the extraction and the production is still sort of raging. It's a very much an end of pipe solution.
Yeah, and I think one of my frustrations with TerraCycle is that it sort of says, oh, don't you know, and it's the same with like the, you know, with the kind of the Tesco or Sainsbury's soft plastics recycling is, you know, don't worry don't worry about this because we can collect it all up and we can so-called recycle it. And I think, you know, people sort of think like, you know, oh, I'm doing a good thing, you know, I'm doing my thing, I'm doing my bit for the environment because I'm buying my crisp packets and I'm putting them in the Tesco bin, whatever, you know. And I think, you know, people kind of, you know, going to get that self-satisfaction. Oh, I've done my, you know, it's like, you know, it's that thing that kids are taught when they're, you know, in primary school. You must recycle, you know, and kids talk about, oh, we need to recycle, and you know, that kid then goes and puts that crisp packet in the recycling. Feel good, tick. You know, I've done my bit for the environment. I'm recycling this crisp packet. Yeah. And that's, I think that's a real kind of issue because we're seeing it's been seen as the wrong way. We're not seeing it as the right. It's just like, don't worry, we've put it in the recycling bin. It's fine.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's there's a lot of education to do and a lot of well, re-education as well, which is tricky. But yeah, I think it's again about keeping positive. They're doing they've got a function, same as recycling. It's part of the solution, but it's just not the main part of the solution. You know, the main thing is reduction in production and reuse, and obviously refill, which hopefully we get to see more of over the next, you know, months and years. Just take some sort of, you know, brave, say brave, but you know, businesses have got to be brave because, and someone's going to do it first. So why not be one of the, you know, Unilever? Although I've seen that they're launching some refill, but you've got to look at it as the, you know, that's one story, but what's lying beneath the headlines.
Yeah, and we've got like in terms of that, we've got like things like Loop UK, which, you know, that's kind of the Unilever kind of thing, and Tesco. So, you know, and we've got that, and then we've got the Good Club. Is it? I think is it that Good Club box as well?
Right,
and that they're also doing that kind of offering that refill. I think, you know, that Good Club is definitely a good one for cheaper. You know, it's a cheaper, because I know Loop UK seems to be quite expensive, but it's, you know, it's really exciting to see that that's kind of starting to be the model of things, and I think that's the kind of model that we'll start to see more of in the supermarkets. And that's the thing, you know, all the supermarkets now are starting to try. You know, we're even seeing Aldi, you know, starting to trial refill, you know, even at Aldi and stuff now. So that when I saw that, I think I was quite excited because it, you know, even sort of like, you know, Aldi's kind of getting on board with the refill and supermarkets, because we know that that's got to be the solution in the future. Really, it's got to be. So yeah, I think, you know, I'm really hopeful that we can kind of really start to kind of do that, but we do need to kind of ensure that supermarkets can do it. I know that supermarkets have got their own targets to sort of say by 2025 they'll do this, whatever, but I think if we just keep holding them to account, we just keep pushing for refills to come through.
That's then, right. Accountability is what needs to happen. Like taking responsibility for it. I think if if people like me can take responsibility for my own waste, and, you know, there's all you guys doing the same thing, I think that's you know, again, being optimistic, but I like to think that people can, you know, businesses can look at that and say, actually, you know, we're in this together. How are we going to get out of it? And yeah, when I say that, it does feel a bit overly optimistic, but I'll just come to this question here. How much do you think you reduced your plastic by following your year's experiment down? Well, I mean, I did carry on collecting for after when I finished, and I just thought, I can't do this. can't keep going, I haven't got space. But I actually did the survey again in I think it was April last year. So obviously I've been sort of working quite hard at reducing those things that I can, and maybe it was a good week for me, but I think we threw away 32 pieces compared to 84 before, 89. So it is quite a big drop. But like I say, maybe it was a good week. Maybe I hadn't finished all of these. I probably didn't eat crisps that week. But it's I think it just shows it can be done. And even if I'd reduced it by 10 or 20, I still think it makes it has an impact, and that's what we really encourage.
Absolutely. And like this whole thing about the crisps thing, I was so happy, when our local zero waste shop, Steph's sustainable staff, she's an absolutely amazing Steph, and she runs a market store in Chesterfield, and last year she won Market Trader of the Year. So and that's really exciting that she's kind of zero waste stall is kind of winning that Market Trader award and stuff like that. But what was exciting for me was the day that she announced that she was selling plastic free crisps, and it was just, it was just so wonderful.
So you stocked up today then?
Yeah, so what happens now is that I order a big massive tub of crisps.
Nice.
And so she kind of brings me a big tub, and she delivers.
Yeah.
So she brings me a massive tub of crisps. I then swap my old tub out and give her, so she takes away the old tub, she gives me the new tub, and I've got plastic free crisps.
What's the brand, or how is it? Just her own?
No, I don't. I think it's from a local farm or something. I don't know. She's kind of got some kind of relationship with. I don't know, but I just think that farm or whatever, whoever's doing it, I just feel like they're in for a real winner. I want to invest in that little business, because that is you want a winner there with plastic free crisps. So with the many crisps that we can get through, it's
definitely someone's going to do it and make a lot of money. Looking forward to that day. Does anyone have any other questions? And I'll just remind everyone of the competition. So the bottle, the book, the bag, poster, all up for grabs. Just please make a donation, any size, all goes in, and it's completely random. So I'll just copy that again, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you sort of listening to me about that, and like the donations really do go to help fund our projects. A very small community interest company, and we've got big ideas, big ambitions. We want to help people to improve their understanding of the problem, particularly at community and sort of school level, and those who aren't sort of necessarily engaged. So everything.
What are your next plans then, Dan? What's the next steps for you going forwards?
Well, excitingly, I can't reveal it quite yet, but we do have a partner for the survey project, which is really, really exciting. We will be launching that, hopefully, or telling people about it in July, August, and then it will be running early next year. So hopefully I'll be able to get you all involved in that. That's very much the key project that we do at the moment. Just seeing from Megan, what other projects do we do? We do a lot of workshops with schools and communities. They're very much around creating materials, running the survey. We've got some other ideas that sort of on the back burner while we continue to raise funding. Around a clue is, I've talked a lot about fruit and veg, so there's a clue for you. But yeah, it's all growing, and we're looking forward to hopefully sharing that news with you very soon.
Will you be willing to, are you kind of going to be offering kind of like workshops out to schools across the country then, if anyone wants to get in touch, for a school workshop?
Yeah, is going out and meeting people when we can, and encouraging people to take part and trying to share you know, how it's affected me and how I think it can help others. And you know, it's more about sort of giving them a kickstart. You know, I want to try and motivate people and sort of galvanize them into doing lots of different things. You know, this is one way of raising awareness and educating and taking action, but there are thousands and thousands of people across the country, you know, yourselves included, who are doing great work like this and just talking at local level and community level, which is, I think, the most important thing. As I was saying to you, Greg, just I think that's where the inspiration can come if you're a small business or a family, you know, trying to discuss that amongst the community, and you know, getting out there to speak to people who, you know, may not have thought about it. I think it's quite an exciting prospect and quite an exciting time.
Yeah, there's so many like there's so much going on now. Like I think in terms of just lots more people are talking about it. So that's really exciting. And I think, yeah, like, you know, one of the things that I've really enjoyed is like I know like football clubs or community football clubs are kind of getting on board and stuff more now. Like I know that I just saw yesterday, I was reading yesterday, was something called Planet Super League, which was run through all the football clubs. Yeah. And they were kind of working with families to reduce their carbon footprint and to reduce, you know, taking actions and things. And that's really exciting that, you know, we've got all these different channels and things as well now where lots of kind of people are, yeah, there's so much talk about it now that we've just got lots of people shouting out about it. So hopefully, yeah. And yeah, I think like, you know, engagement is so important. And I think during COVID has been really difficult, especially for our group as well. You know, we've not been able to go out and talk to people on a market stall, or, you know, and having that face-to-face engagement with people, with families, just, you know, just I think it's so important, because sometimes, you know, a lot of you know, with COVID it's been so difficult to kind of have everything online where you're trying to engage with the people, or you just can't engage with people that, you know, like you can on a market stall, talking to people or just finding out that kind of thing. So
yeah, talking to people in person is so valuable.
So if we can all kind of go out and about, like, you know, and talk to people face to, you know, as all the COVID stuff unlocks and everything over the last part of the year, then we can all go out and about and just speak to people. Then, you know, that will make a difference. And definitely. Yeah, and also as well, like shout, like when I got the plastic free crisps, I shouted about it. It's like anything that you can do where you can get a plastic free swap, shout about it, you know, shout about it all on Twitter, on, you know, tell all your friends and family and things, say, oh, look what I found this amazing shampoo bar, or I found this really great milk bottle that, you know, this really great milk service that I found, or something like that. I think if we can all shout about what we're doing, then it's the domino effect, isn't it? So that's one of the good things of social media.
Yeah, no, definitely, it's the same. You know, doing it on social media and doing it in person is, you know, just doing it is the first step. So yeah, good work to all you guys, and thanks very much for listening as well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back on talking to people on the stall, and actually, yeah, looking forward to it. But I wish you all the best with everything, all your projects, and it's really exciting. Thanks so much for coming, and yeah, and good luck with everything. And yeah, it's been really great to have you. So thanks for giving your time.
Thanks so much, and I look forward to maybe seeing you all soon.
Great, thanks.
Bye, everybody.